Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. It is Thursday night, it is currently 7:54. I just got home from work. It's cold out here, and sadly, it's a bit of deja vu for me because I've already done this video. It was 2 parts. I put it together in editing, and sadly the first part was completely corrupted, unsalvageable, unrecoverable, and here I am doing what I've already done. Now, important caveats from that. Number 1, we're missing an item that I'm about to drop in. It is right here. This is one of our stars of the show, if you will, and it's already been put in use. Not much. When it's out of my pocket, it's probably dirty, not going to look pristine. The reason for that, I'd already started the testing phase, right? And essentially what this is a German cable knife showcase, if you will. And what does this stem from? In all honesty, it stems from me just wanting to get a decent pocket knife. Now, growing up, I had case, buck, old timer, all that stuff, and of course, moving on into this, you have a little bit more income and everything, and you think, well, hey, maybe I can get a cool knife or a better knife or something. And needless to say, where I left off, this Milwaukee, I brought in, showcased it here. It's been fantastic to me. This is the original blade on this thing. Original unit, original blade. It's never been flipped. It's cut through virtually everything I've opened here. Boxes, tape, cellophane, stretch wrap, breaking down God knows how many boxes. And it's been great. I bought the same thing. I liked it so well. Went back to Home Depot and like I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks later, bought the same thing. Took it to work. That one has sucked. And I know what you're thinking. Change the blade, stupid. Well, I do. And it still sucks. It's not anywhere near the performance of this one. And so a little bit after that, I thought, well, you know what? That was massive. It's huge. Takes up a ton of space in my pocket. Let me try something else. And so I picked this up from Klein. It's actually what I'd been using, sort of just EDC, nothing crazy. And the problem I have with this one is the bulk. It's also bulky. Sometimes I like a belt clip, sometimes I don't. There was a phase where I liked it. I was going through that when I bought this, and now not so much. I just kind of want something like I used to have back in the day. These are some, I guess, that my granddad had. No clue on the brands, particularly that one. Kind of the funky shield looking logo if you were to flip it. I assume these are like old timers, case, buck, something, who knows. But the bottom line is, these weigh virtually nothing. They're in your pocket. You almost don't notice them, particularly after you're accustomed to having that in your pocket, which, it is cool. This stores blades and everything. It adds some thickness to it, but it's heavy, it's cumbersome, and I'm just tired of carrying it around with me. So it's kind of the same thing here. This is almost minimalistic compared to the Milwaukee unit. I mean, look how slim that looks. However, there are alternatives here, and they come from some of your favorite German tool companies, right? And the catch here, we're going to go through these similar to how I did, and the sad part is I can't really fake genuine enthusiasm. I like going into things blind. For example, I mic'd all these, I put them on our scale, we did the weigh off, everything. I'm not going to trouble you with that because it wouldn't be genuine. I'd have to be recreating excitement, which I don't really do that well. And the good news is I can probably get this video cranked out a lot quicker with that said. So the goal here, and a caveat, I am not a knife guru. I do not claim to be a knife guru. What do I intend to do with these knives, however fancy or expensive they may not be? I'm going to have them in my pocket. I'm going to cut whatever I need to. Now, typically that's going to be packing tape, nothing exotic. Stretch wrap, which I have a crud ton to go through tomorrow if I can ever not get pulled away from what I'm trying to accomplish at work. And possibly breaking down light boxes. In all honesty, I like to use a utility knife for that. I mean, we get like the thick cardboard with some of this stuff, so I wouldn't expect one of these to excel at it regardless of who makes it or where it's from. But the other thing is I just want to be able to come in and have something minimalistic in my pocket that doesn't bother me, that takes care of that stuff every once in a while, like nylon strapping. It seems like everyone's getting away from steel banding material. So just basic stuff. I'm not going into the woods to survive a zombie apocalypse. Nothing. I just want a functional knife that has a good profile in my pocket. And as you know, can't leave well enough alone. I could have just brought one of these in. I want to see what I like best. Why do I like it the best? My initial impressions translate over to the long term. So I did gain one bit of information since then, and we will cover that here shortly. I think you'll definitely be interested as well. But going from the top down, we've got this NWS unit, which I got a shipment from KC Tool yesterday, and I can tell you right now, I'm going to test that out with this. This is a nice knife. It's essentially, you know, this blade would be on their cable knife. It obviously doesn't have the cable cut out. That would be here on the smaller blade, which has two. But the problem with this is the most stubborn, most ridiculous thing I've ever had. You always hear people complain about pliers, you know, on the joints and stuff. All I know to do, from what I recollect from the old dudes I would hang out with, is literally throw this in sand and see if it helps. I've got something else I'm going to try, but I kid you not. This does not like to be opened when I'm out here and I'm like waiting on oil or antifreeze to drain or something, servicing the transmission. I'll literally just come to that and fold it in and out, and it's made no progress. It's really sad. That is available. It's about 26 bucks from NWS. You can think of it as a glorified version of this one. But with that said, let's come in and let's cover what we have in front of us. These are lined up in no particular order aside from the alphabet. So at the top, we have our offering from Gedore. It's going to come in at $16.92. Their part number will be 113050. It's going to be made from a C70 carbon. Up next, we've got Hazet. This one is going to be their part number 2156. It's going to be 2144, and it is a stainless blade. Coming down, we've got NWS, and it clocks in the part number 963-1-85. This would be priced at $991. Up next, we've got Knipex. The logo is inverted. Fear not. We're going to showcase how you can fix that in a second. It's relatively new. This is something Ben over in the UK picked up, and he got it, I think, early to late last summer, if you will. And I was really, really excited. KC Tool was supposed to get it. They were thinking like around Halloween and then Thanksgiving and then Christmas. Essentially like Q4 of 2019. Didn't ever come. Finally did. Waited and waited to get something on Tool of the Day to bring this in. As luck would have it, that was Tool of the Day. That's when we cashed in on it. This one I've had for quite some time. I've actually picked up another one. And then this was Tool of the Day just earlier this week, I think Tuesday, the day after I had initially filmed this, if you will. But nonetheless, that is from, of course, Stahlwille. So that is our lineup. Those are the brands that we've got involved. If we were to come in, and let's actually cover this real quick. Okay. So when you look at these, you can draw some comparisons and note some similarities, right? So the Stahlwille and the Knipex look eerily similar. Moving on, the Hazet looks like the odd duck. It has no comparable unit, if you will. And these two, well, they look almost identical. The NWS and the Gedore, right? And of course, the 4-blade or utility one above that. You could venture to guess that this is made somewhere. These are probably made at the same place, and these are likely made at the same place. Now, a lot of these are going to be from Germany. They're going to be from Solingen, the city of blades, right? And case in point, when we flip this over, the Stahlwille, try to get it to where you can see that. We'll zoom in a bit. Made in Solingen, proudly. Solingen, if you did not know, again, is in Germany. I should also mention, fear not, we're still in alpha gloves right here. This is what they call their standard. It's essentially just the basic mechanic glove. It doesn't have the impact stuff that I'm wanting for my thumbs. Why am I in this? I'm trying to keep these clean. Now, at work, I had a pneumatic solenoid valve go down. That was fun, but I still got like some crud. It's just one of those deals you wash your hands like 4 times. Doesn't come off. You just give up on it and come home, you know. Last night, though, the fence went down Tuesday. I washed the car Monday. It was beautiful. Tuesday, I drove home in like sunny snowflakes with 60-mile-an-hour wind. And these are the good old impacts, but that, if they look kind of weird, that would be stain from the fence. And eventually it'll wear off on stuff that I don't really care about. The backside still looks pristine. But I didn't want to get these dirty if I could avoid it until they're actually subjected to that. So we have switched over to the standard. If you like what you see here, they have these on closeout. Not this particular one, but like a lime green with sort of a pink palm. I think it's the exact same design, if I'm not mistaken. Super cheap, and we've got the discount code of Lone Star Mopar. So I always link that. Again, I make nothing off of that, nothing. So I want to stress that. But again, I've had these, I've been using them. They're not breaking, they don't suck. I can somewhat recommend them at this point. So just again, if you're interested, you're like, wait, why aren't you in the red gloves? Well, this is why. I'm trying not to get stained on the nice little Knipex and Stahlwille handles. So nonetheless, we want to come in now and we want to talk about country of origin. Because I've mentioned, these are made in Solingen. The Knipex has the exact same design right there. If you don't, we don't have to zoom in. That's made in Solingen, just like the Stahlwille. So we could deduce that these are likely made in the same factory. If we knew where it was, we could probably send a lot of money and some prototypes, and we could have our own knife made with our own logo, right? This right here from Hazet, it is apparently made in Italy. Again, I'm going off of KC Tools' website in this case. I have no reason to doubt them. Sometimes you kind of wonder, check in on things, but this is what Hazet claims, and I know that is important to a lot of you. If you're buying German tools, you want Germany. That's why people complain about VH pliers. You know, they're made in Vietnam. Like, I wanted to like them, but I don't like the country of origin as well. And that type of a thing, right? Italy, you know, I'm not a cutlery expert either in the kitchen. I get steak knives, I get good ones, but you know, it is what it is. Some of you, though, I mean, that may play in. Maybe you prefer one. Maybe you want to try something from Italy. I don't know. Just mentioning it. But then you come in here and you're like, okay, well, that NWS up there and this one, if we zoom in on it, you're thinking, man, that Hazet is the odd duck. It's got the weird handle. It's made in Italy. What an oddball. Well, you'll see the NWS handle here, and you're like, oh, it's wooden. You know, it's clearly German right there. It says NWS, Germany production. And the catch is, you would assume, just based on these two, right here, let me back it out a little bit. One would logically think, okay, well, hey, Hazet's the odd duck out. These two are made in some factory in Solingen. And then these two might be made at the same place, just with a wooden handle instead of plastic. This Gedore knife on the website says it's made in Italy, right? So I said that in my video, and then of course at the time I didn't know it was going to corrupt. When I found out it was corrupted, I knew I had downtime, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to email and see if they can verify that it's made in Germany like the NWS, and then maybe if people see this and they want to go buy the knife, they won't hold that against the Gedore one because they'll say, hey, you know, it's German too, not Italian. They went ahead, Colin shot off the email, and the rep confirmed it's made in Italy. And he was adamant it's not, you know, a rebrand or anything. That leaves a couple of options. You know, maybe he had the wrong product, I don't know. But it could be that there's a place in Italy that makes this, and it just looks super, super similar to this one. It could be a situation where maybe this NWS one is the wrong country of origin. Maybe it's Germany. I just know if I had these two side by side and we didn't have that white print on there, I could not tell you which one was from NWS and which one was from Gedore. I honestly couldn't. I don't think any of you could. There's nothing discernible. We'll get into the weights and the lengths and everything here in a second, but I would assume these are made at the same place. These are made at the same place. We'll just run with what Hazet says about Italy. And I still want to think that whoever makes these, whether they be in Italy or Germany, is probably making both of them. But I have no reason to doubt the man. Some of you probably know or might have more knowledge or expertise or work at the plants. I have no idea. If you have insights, let me know. Now, that said, these all lay out quite nicely. You've got Stahlwille's logo. Knipex is flipped, and some of you might be upset and say, turn it over, buddy. Well, there's not a logo there. However, when we open this up, Knipex has elected to have theirs display like this, which, you know, pick your poison if you're going to do that. You know, opposite of Stahlwille, when we open the Stahlwille blade, we have a situation where it's flipped. So I know some of you are OCD, you don't like the barcodes, you want everything to be perfect. You're going to have to pick if you go with one of these, which is the lesser of the two evils. Do you want the company logo branded with the blade, or do you want it when it's shut? And I can't answer that, it's personal preference. But let's go ahead, we'll open up the Hazet here. Obviously now we're moving on to the blade portion of the video. Now, this one was pretty stubborn, the Gedore, when I first got it, and I've kind of broken it in. But that top NWS, I literally, if I were to shut that all the way, I have to get a pair of pliers. Now my thumb, it doesn't do well at all in the cold. I've started to realize that. It's still not quite back around, but honest to gosh, I would always open everything with my left thumb. I'm right-handed, I'm holding the blade, you know, the knife here, and I'm opening with the left. But on that note, I can tell you, I prefer opening the 3 plastic handled over those 2. It's just easier to do. So take from that what you will. Now, when you lay these out and you're looking at them, obviously we can see some things we could not see. The big difference, we can now see that these aren't just blades or a pocket knife. They actually have that feature where my index finger fits almost perfectly, and that is of course for stripping cable. Comes in super handy. Typically at work, I'm not in a situation where I would be very far away from a pair of wire strippers. Out in the parking lot or something like that, you hate leaving a customer, maybe they bring something in on a trailer, they're wanting you to check something or cut something off. Sucks to have to run back in. This would be super cool and handy to have that, and a little bit easier than just going through and using the blade itself. So again, that is not necessarily why I bought these. It's just if you come in and try to get a standard pocket knife, gonna be difficult to do so. Gedore is the only one that actually makes them. They, again, varying Italy and Germany with their listings, but they get very expensive. These were kind of like the more economical. It adds utility. None of these are lockbacks like my Klein over here in the Milwaukee. I'm super accustomed to easy open and lockbacks. Not what we have with these. They're sort of like a more traditional knife. I'm not sure if that has something to do with like EU laws or something. I'm in Texas. There's nothing strict. There's lots of people that have stores that specifically sell knives. A lot of these would probably be frowned upon unless you're like a professional or have reason to have them across the seas. But that's not my concern. Again, I just want this to be a good pocket knife. So it's not picking up, I don't think, on the camera, but that doesn't look that great on the Gedore, and that's again because I've been using it. My apologies there. Nonetheless, we've got some things to note. With the Stahlwille, it's got kind of a unique blade, right? Where you would typically have the nail nick, theirs is actually perforated, which I find it actually does help a little bit. Might break fingernails off, who knows. There is on the blade something we need to take a look at. And you can see right there, Solingen, Germany, and above that, it's like Rost Fry, and you're like, hey, is that Italian? And that's an understandable thing to think. From what I understand, if you pronounce it just right, and by just right, I mean brutally wrong probably, it would kind of be like Rost Free, right? And then you think, wait, Rust Free? So this is, of course, a popular alloy, I guess, for making knives. It's essentially kind of, you can think of it as sort of like a stainless. I guess it holds an edge pretty well. I guess it was developed in, you know, forged over in Germany, but nonetheless you will see that from time to time. If you just see it by itself, again, as like an English speaker in America or maybe some other country, you might think, oh, that sounds Italian. And if you threw that word at me and wanted the country of origin, that's probably what I would have said. Now, Knipex, we got a couple of things we want to talk about. First and foremost, their nail nick is a diamond. That is intentional. That is by design. If you were unaware, that's their logo, the diamond with Knipex in it. So bonus points there. You'll also note it is radically different from the Stahlwille blade, where this one kind of curves down into a point. This is almost mirroring what you would have in like a razor blade, just a flat cutting surface. Right there, we've got Knipex, 16-20-50, and made in Germany. So again, handle back there has Solingen, and I gotta say, I do like the way that these two feel. The other notable difference between these, aside from the blade discrepancies and the nail nick changes, this one has a little provision back there for a lanyard. Some of you, that'll be a selling point. Some of you will be indifferent. Some of you, that might be a reason not to buy it. I don't know. But it is something, again, worth noting. Now, right here with the Hazet, they're 2156, which if we get it to, well, let's dial it in a little bit for you. Right there, you can see they've got it branded. Did a very nice job there. They've got the part number too. It's always appreciated. And then kind of just what this handle reminds me of, in all honesty, is like a cheap knife. You know, like if you're at a restaurant and they're like, man, we used to have really nice knives, but we got sick of people stealing them. This is sort of like the cheap back end of a steak knife you might just have in like a commercial place, or, you know, like a Walmart set or something. Nothing wrong with it. It actually feels fairly well, and it is super light. But on the blade itself over here, if we get the reflections to stop, When I wasn't trying, there we go, it was zoomed in. You can see Ross Fry. Again, if I saw that and knowing this was made in Italy, I don't see anything about made in Germany or Solingen on it, and I know the Hazet 2156 is listed as an Italian knife, I would kind of tie that in with Italy. Again, I think that would be a logical thing for a lot of people to do. And apparently that is not the case. Again, that would, I guess, have originated in Germany. But for what it's worth, they say it's made in Italy. We're going to run with that assumption. Coming up to the NWS. On the wooden handle, it's something you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I was kind of objectioned to it, wasn't a huge fan. It's kind of grown on me, I gotta admit. It is smooth, it almost feels like an aged wood, if that makes any sense. I'm afraid over time, particularly not because of moisture here, but because of how dry it is typically, I'm kind of wondering how it'll fare long term, but initially, it's not terrible. Again, you're either going to be a plastic type or you're going to be a wood type. If you're wood, top two. If you're plastic, bottom three. That's essentially what that would come down to. Blade itself looks fantastic. Now, there is no marking on this. There's no branding of NWS. There's no part number. There's no country of origin. We have none of that. Now, what I do want you to note is you've got the blade structure here. It's almost just like a fence picket. We've got the standard nail nick. We have a cut and notch there, and then we've got our larger cable provision here. Tucks in, we've got one pin. We've got another, and then we've sort of come down and we have those two. Flipping it around, you can see it mirrors on that side. Get a good feel for what we're looking at. Now, when we come up here to the Gedore, take a look at the blade. Now, like I said, this has been in my pocket now since Monday, so there is some lint on it. You can see where I've been cutting through some stuff. I will tell you, it's not too big of a spoiler. I don't know how these others will perform. I really like it so far. In terms of cutting, may not be the hugest fan of the handle, but in terms of cutting, this thing was sharp. And you can always tell, like when you're cutting through just simple packing tape, 2-inch, 4-inch, whatever, and you come down and you almost feel like you don't even have the tip of the knife touching the tape. You know, like when you have something like that Milwaukee I have at work that sucks, I have to dig into it and it's almost like you just as well use a car key. This blade so far has been a deal where it's like I can get close enough that I think I'm touching it and it's almost like it's just a laser or something. Sounds stupid, you probably know what I'm talking about though. So needless to say, in terms of the cutting thus far, light duty stuff, this has been actually surprisingly well. Now, that line right there is probably pocket lint. Yeah, again, my apologies there. It is what it is. At least you know I'm honest. And I just don't want you to see this and think, man, that one's ugly compared to that one, and not be interested in this one anymore. This one has been in my pocket. It has seen use. I sadly can't go back and recover the lost footage. Now, what I want to do is grab this, and when we have these two side by side, it's a slightly lighter stain on the NWS. But when you look at these, they are pretty similar, right? I mean, you almost might even say they're identical. There's no substantial changes. It's not like one of them has a plastic handle. There's no design. It's pretty much identical. Even here on the blade, the nail nick, the cutout, the cable portion. You know, when we look at it from any angle, it to me is the same knife. And probably made by the same place. Now, NWS very well could be made in Italy. Maybe they both, you know, work with this company. I don't know. I really don't. Some of you hopefully will. But I said this in the video the other day. I'm going to stand by it. Breaking it down for you, just layman's terms, it's the same knife. If you really want the NWS printing, buy this one. If you hate having that printed on your beautiful wood handle, get the Gedore. If it comes down to economics for you, $16.92 for Gedore, $9.91 for NWS. That is the standard price. None of these are tool of the day pricing or anything. You can almost buy two of these for the price of the Gedore. So take from that what you will. Now, speaking of price, I think that may be an important factor for some of you. If you're like me, you were looking for kind of a decent knife, wanted to see what was available overseas, turn to your German tool companies. we would be going in this order. Okay, let's see if you kind of know where we're going to go, because it is a little different than what you see here. So, cheapest, most economical purchase would be the NWS. It would clock in again at $991. Second in line is the Gedore unit, which would be $1692. You're spending about $7 more for an unbranded unit. They look the same to me. I'm just being 100% honest with you here. The middle sister, if you will, the third in line, what do you think that would be? I know what you're typically thinking, like, okay, Stahlwille, Hazet, those are really expensive. Knipex has some pricey stuff, but they're usually economical. Hazet, also, if this is true, you know, being from Italy, it clocks in at $21.44. That's what you would be looking at there. Now then, we get to a point where you're thinking, okay, yep, just go ahead and slide him up, buddy. Not so fast. The Stahlwille, which again was just tool of the day for, I want to say, 17 bucks. I wish this video would have been out prior to that, because then you would have like cashed in and been really happy. But list price on this sucker at KC Tool on any given day, $29.08. That means the Knipex is the most expensive. It will set you back $32.78. So these two German knives, which again, both proudly made in Solingen, advertised 100% can confirm that from the products themselves, the most expensive two. Hazet with the plastic handle is going to come in mid-pack, and then these two, whether they're German or Italian or just Germany and Italy respectively, very, very similar, but the prices are not. So you could almost say the 29 to 32 is negligible. 9 to 16 isn't, because that's almost double the price. If you want a wood handled driver, just off the cuff right now, I would recommend you go with the NWS, for the simple fact it's about half of the price. If it turns out maybe it really is Germany and Italy, then you would take your pick. If you want Germany, you're going to save some money. If you want Italy, you're going to pay more. I don't know. We're ultimately the plan long term. I'm going to use these for roughly a week. I'll see what work throws at them. We'll come back in. I'll tell you what I liked, what I don't like, how they're holding up. Not necessarily the most thorough thing, but from that point I will move forward. I'll probably stick with the one I like the best, and we can provide updates in the future. I'll try to alternate these as well here around the house, just with simple stuff as well. But that is the plan for them. The Hazet, though, if we come in on it, I want to talk about the length now. So this is your lineup, ascending, you know, least expensive, most expensive, if you will. I want to come in now and actually go with my measurements, which differ a little bit. Not all of these provided it, but we will step in and let me see here. 24, yeah. So this is going to be the longest at roughly 198 millimeters, almost 200 in length. Of course, I'm going end to end. Kind of hard to mic a knife, you know, but we do what we can. Right here, that's going to be your difference. That's going to be the added length. The next in line in terms of the longest, these were identical. Again, I'm using a Mitutoyo. Okay, it's not like it's some trash, you know, set or anything. It comes in, it's the digital one as well. You know, no discrepancy on my part. I'll just look at the screen after I put it in place. These two are both going to measure in at 198 millimeters. Now the difference, this one was, I think, 33, and these two were 24. So if you had them lined up perfectly end to end, we're talking like 0.09 difference between these. Ridiculous. But they're essentially the same length, you could say. Now coming in, our next one is going to be the Stahlwille at 197. So again, think of it as a Knipex minus the lanyard. So personally, I don't think I would want that. If I could pick to have this without the lanyard, I would not have bought it with that, just so it's a little bit more streamlined and maybe comfortable to hold in my pocket type of a thing. But it is what it is. And so the Stahlwille clocks in there at 197. The Hazet is by far the shortest, and we're talking, you know, 3 millimeters here, but 195. I did use millimeters here since these were German knives, and that way I don't have any of the metric people yelling at me. And if you want to convert it, you go right ahead and do so. But shortest to longest in terms of the overall length. That's what I want to talk about there, overall length. Now coming in here, I'm going to change these up again for you. The shortest blade is going to be the Knipex. It's going to come in at 80 millimeters. Next in line, I should have ordered these. I don't have to glance at my notes all the time. But the next in line would be the Hazet. conveniently already positioned. It's going to have a blade length of roughly 83 millimeters. Then we're going to come up, the Stahlwille would be next. Its blade, which is again quite different from the Knipex that we have from presumably the same factory, going to clock in at 86. And then the bottom two, which again were identical, are going to have 87 millimeter blades. So once again, if I could discern anything between these two, I would have shown it in the measurements. They're essentially exactly the same. Just maxed out the recording time. But coming in, I think this is where we left off. If we were to go by weight, all right, we're going to come in, and the Knipex is going to be down here again as our heaviest. 82 grams, and again, a lot of that I believe is simply going to be due to the extra metal here if you're so inclined to hook a lanyard to it. When we come in next, we're going to have kind of a close one. The Stahlwille would be 77. Again, if you were to take this and put it there, I can assume it would be 5 grams roughly. Again, do have a slightly longer blade, but again, that's probably where our extra heft is coming from. Now, this was interesting. The Hazet is by far the lightest at 74 grams. And again, use that with a grain of salt. 74 to 82 is our scale. 8 grams differentiate them. But when I threw this on the scale, and it was quite hilarious, because I was thinking, yep, they're going to read the same, right? And so I believe it was the Gedore, because I think it was still alphabetical at the time. Threw it on the scale. It was 77 grams. And then we came in and we put the NWS, and it was 76. And it would cycle a little bit if you leave it long enough, but routinely I think I wound up doing like 5 back-to-back readings on camera. It always came up that somehow the Gedore was a little bit heavier than the NWS. It was 76 and 77 grams. And so, but in terms of me measuring these and getting an overall length, they're identical. The weight is within 1 gram. That's on an Amazon scale, so I mean, we're probably not the most precise, but at least was repeatable with the same result, which that's good enough for me with what I'm doing here. But I'm hoping one of you can maybe provide insight on this. I don't know. Again, NWS very well could be using the same place in Italy to make the knife. And theirs just is, listed as Germany, incorrectly. It literally could be a place in Germany makes theirs and a place in Italy makes theirs. I honestly don't know. I don't want to misguide you. I do know some of you value the country of origin. In terms of Italy, with it being a blade, I don't know that that would be a bad thing. If it was, perhaps a ratchet or something, it might deter some of you. But with a blade, I think you kind of go either way. Again, I'm a guy that cuts steak. And packing tape with these things, but hey, it is what it is. Now, my honest initial impressions, this really is the odd duck. It's the middle of the pack in pricing, which is actually not bad for Hazet. They're usually on the expensive side of things. It has no branding that you can see on the handle. The handle is mundane. It's not colored. It's not like old school. It's not wooden. It's not modern. It's it's just kind of like a cheap steak knife. Now, the blade is branded. I know that matters to some of you. I'm most interested in the edge and how it feels in hand, and then, of course, how long it lasts. But I would not object to this. I wouldn't mind seeing it cheaper. What I would really love to see from Hazet, I'm not sure who's making these for Stahlwille and Knipex. Again, I say this in my deductions. Pretty sure it's the same place, okay, making these two. Picture Hazet's colors, which I happen to have 2 of their drivers here because I finally broke down and used them outside of the test. I was going to denote it. Put license plates on 2 Audis for some friends, essentially. But take this color scheme, sort of their blue, okay, and apply it in design concepts similar to what you have on the Knipex or the Stahlwille. That would be a really good looking knife. And I assume it would probably clock in somewhere around that price point of the $30 to $35 mark. I'd have no objections of bringing that in. I really wouldn't. As this stands, you're either going to like the handle or hate it, but I don't know that the blade would be a selling point because, in all honesty, that blade and that back end look almost identical to these two. So what I'm getting at here is if you were to take which Hazet's blade does have the part number and does have the company logo on it. I'll give them credit for that. That would be an added expense. Again, $10, $17, $21, however you want to call it. The bottom line is these blades are super similar. Theirs claims to be Italy. This claims to be Italy. Maybe NWS is in Italy. I don't know. But these are essentially, in my opinion, the same knife. The biggest difference, NWS is branded, Hazet's branded on the blade, and then this is going to be lighter. It's going to be a little bit shorter. Take from it what you will. If you want a wooden handle, NWS is your economical one. If you want a plastic handle and you like this blade design or this layout and you want it super light, go with Hazet. Personally, and here's what I'm thinking, I'm sure some of you will agree with me when I say this, I'm kind of more inclined to these two, just in initial, like, aesthetic impressions. If they can't cut, I'm not going to be happy, and I'm going to use whatever cuts. That's what's going to come down to. I'm leaning towards the Stahlwille on my initial scale. I want you to leave a comment and let me know if you were said, KC Tool emails you and say, hey, pick one of these 5, you can have it. Are you going to take the most expensive? Or are you going to take the cheapest because you feel bad? Or are you just going to pick the one that you think looks the best and have faith that they would all be good cutting, right, and hold the same edge? Why would I pick the Stahlwille? Here's why. Visibility, okay? I'm taking and I'm using this at work. At work, it's going to vary depending on what you do, whether you're in an office setting, a mail room, or if you're all over the place like me. But when I'm in the back and I'm using a knife, where do I commonly set the knife? On a wire spool, on a workbench that's crowded with all kinds of crud. Wood handles are going to blend in, okay, especially on a wire spool, especially if the knife is shut. All right, that opens up a hole. Then we don't even have the chance of catching a reflection in the blade. The black handle of the Hazet, you've got the same issue. It's not going to stand out. These two will both stand out. I personally think the Stahlwille green might stand out the best, and that's honestly what I'm basing this initial impression on. The blade, I might kind of like Knipex's layout the best. And the reason I say that is it's the most like a utility knife. The Stahlwille blade, I might be the least thinking I would like, because these, particularly after using this Gedore the past couple of days, it's ridiculously sharp and it transitions towards primarily flat. This sort of has that little dip and rise. It will give me kind of 2 cutting edges. If I ever do dull the tip, I can kind of just drop it down and cut in that manner. So it's honestly, it's going to be interesting to see what I like best, but also in terms of feel, for this application, for just an everyday carry knife, doing what I've stated, cutting tape, packing materials, all that sort of stuff, I kind of like the plastic. I also feel like it's a little bit more ergonomic. If you see these and I stack them, and you kind of see that gap, and if I move the Stahlwille down here, you're also going to see a gap. The reason for that is there's a slight and subtle curvature to this. Whereas with the Gedore and the NWS and the Hazet, which the Hazet bottom end does have a little kick to it, like it's recessed a bit. That's really more of a recess than a contour, if you want my honest opinion. But when we do these, you'll note that they butt up together. And that's because they're flat, they're straight. Some people will prefer that. If you look at the Klein that I've been using, it's kind of got the contour like you see with these two. I will say on this one, it is handy that this is here. Obviously, this is great for like battery cable. The cable I run, maybe like 10.5, 10.4, I could fit. Anything past that, I'm going to be like sawing on in a while. But this stuff was great, like 16, 18, 20. That's super handy to have. The problem is, again, just the weight and the bulk of this thing. It'll be weird not having a locked back knife, because that's what I'm used to. But these are all pretty dadgum stiff. I don't think we'll have any issues there. But again, what I want to know from you, if you're given the opportunity to have any of these knives just given to you, which one do you pick and why? Is it a brand preference? Are you trying something new? Is it the plastic, the wood? What appeals to you? What do you like the best? Is it just, you're going to go for the most expensive? Let me know your thoughts on that. Also, if any of you can provide any clarification on, oh yes, I know my cousin works at the factory in Italy that manufactures these 3. NWS is incorrect. Or if you can say, you know what, I live across the street from this place, and they actually don't make the Gedore knife. Let me know, because again, to me, these 3 blades are almost identical. We know that these 2 are apparently definitively Italy. And then the handle and the overall construction of these 2, they're the same. I mean, I could be wrong, but it is what it is, you know. So if any of you can provide clarification to the great mystery, I would sincerely appreciate it. On that note, I actually think somehow this video has gone on longer than the one that I did that was 2 parts with the scale. So my apologies there. But just as kind of like an update for you, again, this is dirty. It's been in my pocket. There's pocket lint, there's sand, there's cast iron, all kinds of stuff, you know, machine shop debris. But the edge itself where I've been cutting, typically, you know, like from here forward, you can see some wear on it, but I mean, it's sharp. It's done a very good job. I've been pretty dadgum happy with it thus far. So ultimately the plan, again, I want to use each of these for roughly a week at work. I never know what a day is going to bring at work. There's days that I might have a knife in my hand, you know, for an hour. There's days I might not ever even open it. No clue how to predict it. It's just going to be literally an everyday carry. I come across what I come across, and it is what it is. So if I have a situation where maybe I get stuck in the office or something, or where there's like a freak snowstorm, we don't come into work 2 days type of a thing, I'll extend it. You know, I'll try to keep it fair. I'll try to keep, you know, the work volume the same. And essentially, as long as I have a feel for, I love this handle, I hate this handle, good Lord, this is sharp, you know, I can't open this stupid thing, it's already dull. That's what I'm looking to have. I hope to have that video ready probably, you know, 5 to 6 weeks, maybe 2-month time frame, just kind of depends. But I'm going to go in, I'm going to eat supper, I'm going to edit this immediately, because if this corrupts, I have one more chance to get it done Friday night, or you don't have a video unless I release like car repair stuff. So that said, I'm getting cold. Hopefully this provides information for you, though. I will have links to each one of these down below. This was literally just tool of the day Tuesday. This was tool of the day maybe a month ago when I brought it in. I don't know if these will ever be tool of the day. They might be, you never really know. If they are, that's a great deal. The NWS is honestly sub $10, $9.91 as is. If any of these intrigued you, but you're trying to be on a budget, I'd go that route, particularly if you're a fan of wooden handles. Get it in if you like it, if it compares well to what you're using, or, you know, a lot of people I know have expensive knives. Sometimes they don't like to use them at work, right? That's for your personal stuff at home, and you're going to get something cheaper for work. $10, I mean, you could go to Harbor Freight and you're in that territory, you know, so keep that in mind. But you do step up in price for these others. I'll have them all linked down below. Again, if you're interested in them, you can check them out. I don't know that either of these will be coming up again anytime soon, unfortunately, because they were just so recently tool of the day. But it does save you a good chunk of change. That's why you check it every day. If you just brought this in on tool of the day and you've already gotten it, feel free to let me know what you're thinking of it. Again, based on my criteria for what I'm wanting to do, the visibility there is really appealing to me. But anyway, close out on the lime green and pink standard mechanics gloves at Alpha. Don't know that the discount code would work on them. Try it. It's Lone Star. And of course, if you like the vibe, like I do, and you've ruined yours, you know, or you've worn through them or something, the discount code should get you covered a pretty decent chunk off of the price, by the way. So be sure to check that out. It's always linked down below as well. But let me know your thoughts on all this. Again, my apologies. I thought I'd get this cranked out quicker. Didn't turn out that way. But I did have the notes there, so, you know, it is what it is. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. I've got a lot of really cool stuff. If I just could get the time to make the videos, we've got some really neat stuff coming your direction. Do hope you enjoy it. This guy, can't leave him out in the shop. He's got to go back to work with me tomorrow. But let me know your thoughts on all this mess. Hopefully you enjoyed it, learned a little something, had some fun. And I'm going to go eat supper and try to warm. When I get cold, like, I lose, I don't know, it becomes really difficult to do anything with my right thumb. So that's the downside. Hopefully that comes back over time. And quite frankly, here in about a month, it'll probably quit being cold anyway. It'll be super hot, and you'll hear me complain about that instead. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. I do have some pictures. I'll either be posting them up there on the forum or just Instagram. Kind of depends on time. Speaking of Instagram, at Lone Star Mopars on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure you follow along on your preferred method. And with that said, thanks again. I will catch you back here in the next one.